Are you wondering what it takes to get a foster care license? Well, in this episode, we're going to talk all about that. My name is Brian Woodruff. I'm a foster and adoptive parent. I'm the creator of fostercareaction.com. I'm an author of the book, You Think You Want to Be a Foster Parent. So you've decided that you want to be a foster parent, but now you need to get licensed and you're not sure what that process is. Well, today I'm going to talk all about that. Today we're going to talk about all the steps that you're going to have to take to become a foster parent. So the very, very first step that you're going to have to take is you're going to have to decide who you're going to get your license through. And this is a really important decision that you need to make. This will, in a lot of ways, determine the amount of support that you get. It will determine how quickly you'll get your first placement. There's a lot of things involved with this. So this very first step cannot be taken lightly. It seems like an easy choice, but I will promise you that this is a choice that you probably need to think long and hard about. So there's two different ways of going about getting licensed. And one is going through your local county. Your local county will license you. Not all counties license. Some counties farm out their foster care to other parties, but for the most part, you can get licensed directly through the county. Or the other way that you can get your license is to go through a foster care agency. And there are definitely pros and cons to both. My wife and I decided to go through an agency, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. It's just the choice that we made. So I'm going to make a video, and I'll have it linked below, about the differences between getting licensed through the county and getting licensed through an agency, and the pros and cons of both. But at a very high level, today I'm going to talk about the two. So if you boil it down to the simplest of simplest, typically if you get licensed through the county, you will get a placement faster, but you will have less support. And again, that's not 100% true all the time, but in general, you'll get a placement faster and you'll get less support. When you go through an agency, typically it will take a little longer to get a placement, but you'll get a lot more support. And so that's one of those things you're going to have to really think about, is how much support do you need? One of the ways that's been described to me, I wouldn't describe it this way, but I had a friend of mine describe it to me. Getting licensed through the county feels a little bit like a business transaction, and getting licensed through an agency feels like family. Now, understand, both have its pros and cons. Family can be a real pain, and we all know that. And so getting licensed through an agency can be a real pain sometimes. But at the same time, sometimes you feel like a number going through the county. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. Some counties do a great job of making it feel like family. I'm just talking in general from all the research that I've done and the research that Katie and I did as we were going through this process. So again, a really important step. I would highly encourage you to watch the video that's linked to this on the differences between the county and the agency. I'm going to go in depth as to what those differences are. So you're going to pick either a county or an agency, and the very next step is going to go through pre-placement classes. So currently, pre-placement classes are 36 hours, typically 3-hour classes, so 12 3-hour classes. In my state, we're getting ready to reduce the credits to 24 hours, so it'll be 3-hour classes, 8 3-hour classes instead of 12 3-hour classes. I don't want to get political here, but I personally believe that this is a mistake. We had 5 children going into this, and the things that we learned in pre-placement classes was highly valuable to make us successful in being foster parents. So I really believe that there needs to be more training than the 36 hours, but people can only put up with so much. But again, you're going to have to go through pre-placement classes. What are pre-placement classes? Well, they're the classes that teach you all the things that you're going to need to know about what it's like to be in foster care and what what you need to know to be a successful foster parent. And again, I'm doing an entire video on pre-placement classes, so I would highly recommend that you subscribe and you can get notified when those videos are posted. But again, I'm going to do an entire video talking about the entire process of pre-placement classes and what you're going to learn, and tips that I learned through the process to be able to receive the information, because to some degree it's like being fed water through a fire hose. It's pretty overwhelming. Then after you get done with the pre-placement classes, you're going to go through the home study process. They call it the home study, and so people think, well, they're just going to come to your house, and that is part of it. But the home study process is way more than that. It's an interview process. It can be very invasive. If you talk to anybody that's gone through it, it's not bad after you're all done, but it certainly feels invasive. They're going to ask questions that aren't going to make a lot of sense, but I assure you that they're all good questions. And again, I'm doing a complete video on the home study process to talk more in detail about that. So if you want more information about that, please refer to that. But the one thing I want you to know about the home study process is it feels like it's a pass-fail. And it's really not. It's really designed to understand who you are. And so please go into it knowing that. Part of the home study process is a financial review. Again, I'm going to do a complete video on the entire process and the requirements for financial, and what does that look like being a foster parent, and what does a stipend look like. And so there is a financial review that's done. It's not, basically, let's boil it down to a nutshell. If you can pay your bills, that's what you need to be able to do. You don't have to be wealthy. You just have to be able to pay your bills, your normal bills. And so again, I'll go through that entire process in another video. Then you're going to go through a series of background checks and fingerprints. So you'll have to get fingerprinted, and then you'll get you'll get a federal, state, and local background check. I will tell you that misdemeanors are normally okay, depending on what they are. Things like DUIs and things of that nature, as long as there's been some period of time, that's typically not an issue. But again, every state is different, so understand that it's impossible for me to tell you what is and what isn't allowed, because every single state operates a little bit differently. Felonies, on the other hand, are looked at a little closer. A lot of times, as long as they don't have anything to do with children, if there's been a period of time, then a lot of times you can, even with a felony, you can be approved. But again, every state is different. When you interview either the county or the agency as you're going through the process, these are great questions to ask them, because they can tell you right up front, this is allowed and this is not. And then obviously I said fingerprints are done. The interview process, as I said, is part of the home study. And then finally, the actual home inspection. And again, I do an entire video on the home inspection. It's not nearly what you think. I have an entire video on all the requirements of your home, and I assure you they're not near what you probably think they are. So please take time to review that. But at a very high level, you have to have a place for this child to sleep. You have to have a bed for this child to sleep. And you have to have some minimum safety requirements. And again, I'll cover those. But again, it's really not bad. Most people have to make minor tweaks to their home after the home study, but again, minor. So then after the home study is completed and all the paperwork is filled out, there is I should have said, there is an application process. And so it's sort of like filling out for a job. You're going to be required to give W-2s and tax forms and references and some things of that nature, all to verify the information that you've given them, just like you would do getting a job or anything like that. After that's all done, the county or the agency writes a report, sends it to the state. The state either approves it or denies it. I will tell you that the county or the agency basically can tell you if it's going to be approved or denied before they ever send it, because they know what the guidelines are. But again, the state reviews it and then issues you the license. So you're actually licensed by the state, and either the county or the agency holds your license. If you're familiar with the real estate business, it's a little bit like the real estate business. You get a real estate license, but your broker actually holds the license. So if you think of the county or the agency as your broker, it's sort of the same thing. And then after that, you'll receive your license, and then you're good to start fostering. So the big question I get is, well, how long does this process take? Well, my experience is it takes somewhere between 6 and 9 months. Sometimes it stretches out to a year. I've known people that's been able to do it in 3 months, but that's very, very difficult. You have to be really on top of things, and you have to get things scheduled right away, and so on. But typically 6 to 9 months is the typical process, because again, several meetings, you have to attend all those classes, and you can do some of this stuff simultaneously. And so that's what my wife and I did. We started in January, and we were licensed in May, but we were doing the home study process during the time we were also doing pre-placement classes, and we were getting all the information. And so it is possible to move along and get this to go quicker, but most people figure 6 to 9 months for this process. And I know that sounds like a long time, but I assure you there's a lot of information that you're going to need to get. Being a foster parent is way different than being a bio parent. And so that's why all this training, and that's why all this process, and because the thing that you have to remember is that most children that enter the foster care system did nothing wrong. Their caregiver did something wrong. And because their caregiver did something wrong, they've been put in this miserable situation. And so the last thing we want to do is to be another person to let them down. As foster parents, we are going to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. But it is our job to limit our mistakes to the best of our ability. So I hope you found this video helpful. And again, if you do, please subscribe. Plenty more videos that are just like this coming up in the future.